What's going on, guys? It's Rylan with Rylan's Amazing Photography, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be showing you guys how I edit my wildlife photography. However, before we get into the video, I want to remind you guys to go down below and like today's video. While you're down there, you might as well go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. I edit my photos using Lightroom and Photoshop, so if you want to follow along using my editing technique as you watch this video, feel free to do so. So let's go ahead and without further ado get into today's video. Allow me to quickly interrupt this video and tell you that today's video is sponsored by me. That's right, my first ever photo book, Out of the Darkness, is officially out and available for purchase. This book is about my first year journey as a photographer and has all kinds of different nature related stuff. Wildlife, landscapes, it's got anything that you could ever imagine as far as nature goes. To purchase this book, you can go to blurb.com and search Out of the Darkness, or you can click either one of the links in the description. You might say, Rylan, I don't want to buy an in-person copy. I don't want to be able to hold this book and look at it. First off, I can't imagine why you would say that, but if you do say that, don't worry. You can buy an ebook copy that you can read on any of your devices. So let's go ahead and get back to me in the video. Okay, so here we are in Lightroom, and I have 12 of some of my best photos. It's birds and deer, I believe, is all that are in these photos here. Obviously I have photos of a bunch of different subjects, but these are the ones that I'm going to be working with today. I'm not going to go over every single one of these, but I'm going to pick a few to go over. We're going to start with this tufted titmouse in the snow. So I always like to get as close as possible to my subjects, so I'm going to go ahead and crop this guy down a little bit. I'm going to kind of, instead of centering him, I'm going to use the rule of thirds and put him in about the roughly a third up the image and a third to the side of the left image. I think I got the exposure pretty right here. I am going to up it a little bit to about 0.10. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. The highlights, going to up them just a tiny tad down the shadows. Right now I'm just doing some basic adjustments. It's not really a huge big deal as to how you do this. It's kind of a personal preference as far as this goes. I always like to up the vibrance. I like it to be a very colorful image. It was dark when I took this, so when I zoom in here you might notice that there's some noise. I'm going to use noise reduction. We'll put that roughly around there, and then we'll up the detail fully. And then I'm not going to sharpen it or anything in here because we're about to move this file over into Photoshop, and then we're going to deal with things such as that. So to put this and edit the rest of the photo in Photoshop, you're going to click Edit In, and you're going to put Edit in Adobe Photoshop CC 2019 and click that. It's going to ask you if you want to edit the copy with Lightroom adjustments, edit a copy of the original file, or edit the actual original file. I always edit a copy with a Lightroom adjustment, so you're getting what you did in Lightroom. Now we're going to go ahead and wait for Photoshop to open and load. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. It's a pretty good file, and I'm going to start this out by masking the subject. To mask the subject, you can use either the lasso tool, which you can use by selecting L, or personally I like to use the magic wand tool, which you press W and do that. To adjust the size of your brush, you hit Control and Option if you're on a Mac. I believe it's Alt and Control and Alt if you're on a Windows. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I'm going to go ahead and outline the subject using this. If you need to remove selection, you just click Option and you can remove the selection. Like if you messed up masking it, which the wand isn't always perfect, but it usually gets a lot closer than the actual lasso tool because that's you hand drawing it. So I always like to use the wand. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, if we wanted it to be perfect, I could spend some more time on this. Make sure that you unlock your background layer so that you can add adjustments to the original layer. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and click Command C or Control C if you're on Windows, and then you're going to click Command V or Control V if you're on Windows. This is going to copy another layer of the bird. You can see if I move there's another layer that obviously don't do that. So Once you've done that, you're going to want to make sure that you have the new layer that you just copied, which is layer 1. So make sure you click that layer, then you're going to click filter, and you're going to go down here to other, and once you click other, you're going to go to high pass. When you click high pass, it's going to outline your subject in gray. What this does is it kind of sharpens the image. As you can see here, it looks sharper. You might not be able to tell a massive difference, but it's definitely a sharper file once you've done that. I typically don't go over too or to look too unrealistic. If you see there, you can kind of see it in the gray outline through here as well, that's going to look super sharp if I leave it like that. So I think for this particular image, I'm going to do about a 1.7. Should look about right. And you're going to click OK. Now when you do that, it's going to leave this weird kind of gray overlay over the image, and to fix this, you're going to want to go over here by your layers, and you're going to, where it says normal, you're going to click that, and you're going to scroll down to where you see overlay, and you're going to click it. And now once I've done that, you can tell that my image is just like, not the whole image, but the bird itself looks more detailed and kind of sharp when you zoom in there. So that's how I like to do that. Now once you've done this, you're going to want to go ahead and click Command E to put your layers into one, which is go ahead and adding that layer. Once you do that, you're going to want to click Command E, which combines those two layers, so you now are just back down to one layer where it's layer 0. Once you've done that, you're going to want to select layer 0 and copy the entire layer, which is going to give you an identical copy to the first copy, and it'll be called layer 1. Once you've done that, you're going to want to go up to edit and then fill, and I believe the default in Photoshop when it does this is to give you black. Do not use black. Make sure you use 50% gray, 100% opacity, and the mode is normal obviously, and click OK. Once you've done this, it's going to put just a gray screen over your original image. To solve this, you're going to do the same thing we did earlier for the bird. You're going to go over into layers and go down and click overlay. Once you've done overlay, this is where it gets interesting. You're going to select your brush tool, which is B. Make sure that you're using white and black. For some reason I had a weird kind of different color on there. And you switch between those two by pressing the arrows. The black is going to darken your image in spots. This is basically just dodging and burning. You can see if I use that, it's going to darken the image right through there. Or if I switch to white, it's going to brighten it up right through there. This is dodging and burning in Photoshop. This is how I dodge and burn my images. Now obviously you're probably not going to want it this bright anywhere or as dark as it was anywhere. So to solve this, you're going to want to go into your brush settings, make sure your hardness is on 0. Like I said, you can change your size here, or you can use Control Option if you're on a Mac. For the opacity, this is what solves that problem. You can see right now it's on 100%, so it looks super bright. Well, I'm going to down it to probably about 18, 17-ish, and once you color it in, you really don't notice a huge difference through there. But you will when I color in on the bird, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I always like to dodge and burn the main subject of the image before anything else, and just kind of brighten it in the places where it's white and kind of darken it in the places where it should be dark. And this always kind of makes your image pop a little more, I guess. And really it's kind of your own personal preference when doing this, how much white and how much dark you add. There's no right or wrong way to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and do this to my liking. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now that I've went ahead and did the adjustments that I want to the bird, I'm going to go ahead and make adjustments to the entire image. I'm going to start by brightening up the snow here to kind of make it pop just a little more. You're not going to tell a massive difference in this, but it's definitely going to brighten it, believe it or not. There's not really any dark parts to the image, so I'm not going to worry about that as much. Now, something that I like to do when it snows is add snowflakes. You're probably sitting there thinking you can't add snowflakes to an image. Well, you're wrong, and you actually do it the same way that I've been doing everything else in here. So I'm going to up my opacity probably around 26, and then I'm going to start just kind of putting dots along through here. Actually, 26 isn't bright enough, so I'm probably going to up the opacity to around 40-ish. Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see a small white dot. Well, you're going to change your brush sizes, and you're just going to put these dots throughout the image, like so. And it's going to look like out of focus snow flurries. really, and that's the effect that we're wanting. If you're editing a snow image, it always looks good when you have some blurred out snow in the background. This always isn't possible. At the time this image was taken, it had actually quit snowing, so obviously I can't capture snowflakes when there's no snow. But when you're adding this, you have to make sure that you're on a white background, because if we come over here and we do it on this dark background, it's just going to be like a brown spot, so that's not going to look right. So you always have to make sure that it's only on the white portion of the image, or it'll stand out too much and it won't look right. So I think this is probably about enough to make it not look unrealistic, because it can look unrealistic if you add too many. So yeah, that's this image. You're going to want to go ahead and combine these layers once again by clicking Command E, and then you're going to come up to File and click Export and Export As, and then you're going to go ahead and click I think it's save when it pops up, and then you save it to the location where you want the file to be saved. So let's go ahead and edit the next photo. So here we are yet again back in Lightroom, and now I'm going to edit this deer photo. It was taken back in, I believe, December. I think a little before Christmas, so this is around Christmas time when this was taken. Now when you're shooting in RAW, when the photo is shown on your LCD screen, you're going to have a nice amount of contrast and stuff, and the photo is going to look really good, and that's because the camera is kind of trained to add that contrast in to make it appeal to your eye. However, when you put these RAW photos on your computer or on your phone or tablet or whatever, it's obviously going to lose a lot of contrast, so you can tell that this photo is really kind of dull. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a whole lot of contrast. I'm talking about really high. I think around 28 looks probably about right. Now I'm going to go ahead and, once I've done this, adjust the exposure. I think about 15 looks about right as far as that goes. I'm actually going to put the subject in the right third of the image. I'm going to up the highlights, which is something that I don't do as often as I should. I tend to down the highlights a lot so you get more detail of the image, but for this particular photo it looks better if you up them. I'm going to lower the shadows and continue to do a few more basic adjustments in Lightroom. So I've done some more basic adjustments. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply some noise reduction. I can't do a huge amount on this particular photo or I'll lose a lot of the detail, because it's, as you notice, a more noised image because it was a lot darker outside than the one that we did a few minutes ago. I'm going to up the detail to 80, and I'm not going to sharpen anything once again in Lightroom, but I'm rather going to wait and just sharpen the subject of the image in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and, just like the last image, right click and click Edit in Photoshop. Okay, now we're in Photoshop. We're going to do the same thing I taught you earlier, which is click W and use the magic wand. Obviously you can lasso this out as well, but I think it's typically more accurate when you use the wand tool, and that's my personal preference, so I was just directing you all towards the wand tool. You don't have to use it, but it's what I prefer. Okay, so I've got my subject decently masked out. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect like I said before. Now go ahead and copy this and paste it, and you're going to have a new layer once again, and we're going to do the same thing we did for the bird, which is go to Filter, go down to Other, and click High Pass. And then I think for this image I'm going to do it even less than the last one. I'll probably, well, no, I think I'll do it more than the last one. 2.1, we'll see how this looks. This might look too overdone, and if it does we can just go back and redo it. So you go down to Overlay, and actually 2.1 looks really good. I think that's probably about where we need it. It really details out the subject and shows its features. Okay, so now we are going to combine these two layers by pressing Command E, and then I'm going to copy this layer, and I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to click Fill and 50% gray. Okay, and we're going to dodge and burn the image. So once again, you just overlay that layer, and then you use the brush tool using your whites and blacks to whiten and darken the image. So I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. Okay, so I've went ahead and did the adjustments I like to the deer, and now I'm going to go ahead and do it to the rest of the image, which shouldn't take as long as the last one because there's really not as many adjustments as needed as much as the last one. I'm just going to kind of brighten up this grass and make it stand out a little bit more, and then as far as the background goes, I'm going to actually kind of darken it. Don't want to do too much though. I'm just going to kind of do it all around it. Now, something that is different in this image that we haven't seen before or worked with before in other images is you might notice barbed wire in the background. It doesn't look good. I'm not going to lie about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we are going to click the healing brush tool, which is J on your keyboard. So you're going to come over here and you're going to click Option and then click the screen where you like. What this does is basically it's going to pretty much copy and paste what you have there. But actually, before you do this, I forgot to tell you, we have to go ahead and Command E and combine those layers. Once you've done that, you're going to Option click, and then it's going to pretty much just copy what is above the part that you're wanting to remove. So I'm just going to slowly take this tool over that. You can see it does look a little bit wonky, but if you're zooming in, you might notice that. So just for my own peace of mind, I'm actually going to take a little bit more time on this than I typically would. So actually I'm not able to get this how I'm pleased with it right now, so I'm going to go ahead and outline this with the lasso tool by pressing L and select it. Once I've done that, I'm going to come up here to edit and I'm going to click Content Aware Fill. This is going to basically make this look a lot nicer. As you can see, it did a lot better job with it than I was doing with the spot healing tool, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then it's fixed, so click Command D. And actually, since there's more barbed wire on this side, we're going to use Content Aware Fill once again rather than doing this by hand because that can make it a lot harder. So you're going to click L once again on your keyboard and you're going to pretty much just outline this entire barbed wire fence with this kind of speckled looking line. And you're going to go all the way back to where you started. And this doesn't have to be exact. Content Aware Fill pretty much takes care of it all. And you're going to link that back together, and then you're going to click Edit, Content Aware Fill. Oh, I do that all the time. You have to make sure that you're on layer 0 when you're doing Content Aware Fill or whatever layer that you're wanting the fill to come from. Then you have to click Edit, Content Aware Fill, and it'll take care of it, and click OK, and boom, your barbed wire is gone. And when you zoom out, it looks really good, and you would never know that there was barbed wire there. And yeah, that's your image. So you can go ahead and export it by clicking File, Export, Export As, and then click Export All, and then save it to the file location that you want it to go into. Okay, so I'm back in Lightroom, and this is going to be the last image that I'll show you guys how to edit. And I'm actually going to be doing something a little cheeky in Photoshop with this image. However, first, we're going to edit it in Lightroom and get the adjustments right and kind of crop it down, and we'll go from there. So first things first, I'm going to start this with a crop. I think probably about right there looks good. Maybe move them down a little. No, I think it looks good where it's at right there. and I'm gonna go ahead and do some basic adjustments to how I like it. Okay, so now that I've done that, I don't really think we need noise reduction for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and click edit in and edit in a Photoshop CC 2019. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and yeah, this should be really good. You guys are going to be a little surprised with what I do here, but I'm going to start this off the same way as I always do. It's just going to take a little bit longer because there's two subjects. So go ahead and mask out the first subject. So I'm going to go ahead and mask out the first subject, and then I'll mask out the second subject once I've done this. Okay, so once you did that to both layers, obviously it doesn't have to be super perfect at all. The fact that they're in the air, you're not going to really see what's outside of their own boundaries. I went ahead and masked them and sharpened them down using the high pass tool. So now we're all back on one layer, and I'm going to do something a little different, which is mask out the subjects once again, or at least this bottom one first. And this is going to have to be a lot more perfect, but if it's not perfect, we can obviously fix it afterward. So I'm going to go ahead and mask it out using the wand tool to the best of my ability, at least. We really want it as close as possible to the details, but we might just have to miss some spots and then kind of erase them out when we're done, because not necessarily miss some spots, but like get too much of the sky, because it's, for what we're doing right now, it's better to have more than less. So I think this looks pretty decent what we've got right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click Command C and Command B, which is going to add that layer. So once we've done that, we're going to zoom out and we're gonna click on that layer and we're going to move it down. Don't change the size or anything. It's very important that you don't change the size, and make sure that you have the right subject chosen. And we're going to line it up down here and click enter. And let's zoom in and kind of see how this looks. This actually looks really well. It looks like we did a really good job of copying and pasting this, and the sky isn't even off or anything. So now we're going to go ahead and click Command E and add that to the same layer. Next, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to select and mask the top bird rather than the bottom bird. So you're going to click W, which is your magic wand tool. You're going to want to go ahead and mask out this subject. I think this looks pretty decent. We're going to go ahead and click Command C and to copy it. Now we're going to press Command V, which is going to add it, and then you're going to select that layer and move it up to kind of line it up with the rest of the image. It's very important that you line it up with how the other birds are, so it looks like they're kind of flying in formation. I think right there looks good. Yeah, so now we're going to zoom in and see how well we masked, and you can see this time we didn't do as well as the first time in a few spots, mainly around the beak and around the tail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click E. Make sure that you have the layer that's copied selected. Don't have the main layer, have layer 1. Don't go ahead and combine the layers until after you've erased what you need to from this layer. So obviously get your eraser pretty low so you're not going to accidentally erase part of the beak or anything, and just start kind of brushing away at the blue or whatever kind of background that you're adding. This is if you're wanting to add more subjects in your image. This is how I do it. There's other ways of doing it, I'm sure, but this is the way that's always proven the easiest to me. I think we erased, oh, don't do what I did. I think we erased, I did it again. Okay. Don't erase that like I did, but I think that looks pretty good. They look pretty decent here, but I do have a complaint, and that's that the image isn't exactly centered. I don't think we have more free space down here than we do up here. So I'm going to crop this. Make sure that you're holding shift unlike I was to keep the same aspect ratio so it doesn't change the way your image looks. I think that looks pretty decent. Yeah, that looks about right, I think. Is that, let's see here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So once you've done that, go ahead and click Command E to combine your two layers and then export it out. And that's all for the editing aspect. Let's go ahead and close the video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and hopefully learned a thing or two on how I edit my photos, and hopefully this will help you learn to edit yours better or edit them in general. Thank you all so much. If this did help you guys, definitely make sure you go down below and like today's video. Don't forget to check out my book. You can get it in an ebook or you can get it in a copy in hand. Thank you all so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.